Uh, hey everybody, I'm happy to see you now at my presentation that is called Psychology of Influence for a Tester, Persuade, Act and Defend. My name is Nastya and I have been working for 10 different projects, and I have also a second higher education in psychology, so that's why I like to present some things that are somewhere in between testing and psychology, and to provide you with some more or less good comment that is based not only on the internet sources but also on psychology. So where did I get this idea from? Before I answer this question, please raise your hands, those who are not afraid to go to job interviews. Okay, I envy you actually. I'm very afraid of that. And not only me actually. And so that's what it all begins with. Once my friend, a tester as well, he wanted to go to her job interview and she blushes. And she blushes really badly. She goes like purple red. And she is panicking. Job interviewers are also panicking. They give her water and they don't take her to this job. They don't employ her. And she is always ready that they will not employ her just because of this blushing thing. And in this case, once she asked me for advice, I remembered some of my job interviews. I came there, I said hi, and I just bumped into a glass wall. And that was kind of awkward. And I really could provide her with some advice, but I was not sure if it could actually help her in her job interviews. And I tried to understand how it could help us in our work, if we will be able to protect ourselves. So that's how I started with Robert Cialdini rules and principles in my work. It was about effective communication, and I'll try to tell you what it resulted in. So first of all, let's speak about two different terms, influence and manipulation. Manipulation is usually a hidden influence, and it is in the interest of those who manipulate. And influence is an open thing. You're actually providing this person with some, or offering them some open information, and this person can choose himself or herself on what to do. We're not going to speak about manipulation. We're going to speak about influence on decision making, on seeing you as a specialist and how to help you. If you don't have a, for example, who was at the opening? Okay, not many of you were at the opening. Did you see the host? He is very charismatic. He is doing everything perfectly fine. We like him, and he does not have any problems with telling us things. So how can we help people, those who are not charismatic enough, how to help them to be charismatics? So we're going to discuss it today. And besides, I'm going to demonstrate to you a phenomenon that our crew, our team, calls it weird eyebrows. I hope that this principle will help you as well. So okay, let's start with the first principle, the authority principle. First of all, it says that we are all trusting usually our authorities, our parents, our authorities, British scientists, or whoever else. We trust somebody. Tech leaders, group leaders, and so on. We are losing to them in their authority. We can win only if we're non-formal leaders. Why? Because they have administrative authority already. So how can we help ourselves? How we can create this balance? And in this case, we have a second part of our principle that tells us that we react in a similar way both to the authority and to the symbol of authority. What can be a symbol of authority? Maybe some sunglasses, some certificates, or good clothes and so on. All of it is a symbol of authority. Please raise your hands who have a certificate from TPB. Okay. Hi, so you have authority here. Who have a LinkedIn profile or recommendations? Okay, great. You have also this principle of authority. So basically, we have this symbol of authority. We were testing a lot according to this principle, and I'll tell you the most interesting parts. We tried the tiger with changing clothes in different cases, and you can see two good authority symbols: coat, a jacket, or classical a white shirt or black shirt. And psychology says that people who are dressed in this ways will be thought of as an authoritative person, and a person who has glasses probably will be considered as a smart one. We made an experiment. There were 3 pictures of each person, just regular clothes, a jacket, and the third one with in glasses. And then we gave these pictures to group leads, and PMs and group leads had to choose whom they would provide the role of team lead and technical lead, and the third one who will not have any position at all. And 85% of those who were in jackets and shirts had team lead's role, so basically they were kind of authoritative. Those who had glasses on them, they had a technical lead role, and only 11% of those who didn't have any other symbols, authority symbols, they just had some kind of position. So basically people have this intuition for it. When I went to work in a jacket, and though I don't like it actually, I knew where people were going. They wanted to say where they were going to job, for example, or to play table tennis or whatever else. So basically it was quite interesting for us, because I didn't think that it would work for us. But still, those guys who had this held this experiment, out of 3 testers had a jacket and glasses, they said that people around this person were oriented at this particular person and his opinion, the one who had jacket and glasses on. So they were looking at him, they had eye contact, they asked questions from this person, and even if his decision was not the best one or the most harmonious one, then they were still oriented at his opinion.
Okay, the authority principle works. I recommend you to use it to get a certain benefit, a competency, or advance of competency. To show your authority, for example, you don't know me, you don't know anything about my project, about my work, about my studies at the psychology department. But I'm asking you for this authority advance. I have glasses, as if I'm saying you guys don't know me, but you can trust me. I know what I'm talking about. This is relevant when you need to impress people, to make the first impression, when you get involved in the short-term or new project, when you're sitting at a very important meeting. It's a very heavy argument. You're helping yourself with this. So I confirm that this works. But there are nuances everywhere. This principle would not work in the following cases. First, when you do not support your authority with anything. I told you that this is an additional argument of using symbols, but not the major one. Imagine you coming somewhere, you have eyeglasses and you're well dressed. You're looking for advance, but if you happen not to be the person who doesn't have authority, and you don't supposed to have authority, and people would not trust you. But also, if you don't have the proper skills, people will not respect you. Classical example: people fill in their resumes with a huge number of skills, but if you get caught, and people usually get caught at some point, it works much worse if you're not supporting your authority with anything, because automatically your authority that you can't support something goes down in the dump. Do not disregard these principles. Also, the authority principle would not work when you in counter-authority or you're choosing some invalid symbols. Invalid symbols can help you when you're at a meeting where you don't want to speak or you don't have any opinion, but you must work there. You bring an invalid symbol along with you, and people surrounding you don't understand whether you're competent enough in this area. Are you from this field at all? I do it when I want to avoid some communication with people, and that's when I use it. So this myth is busted. Another principle is this principle says that we like people that we have something in common with, people we like, something that unites us. What our brain does, it thinks that I know myself, I know what to expect from myself, and people who look like me, they also are perceived as reliable people, as if we know what to expect from them. That's why it'll be much easier for us to trust these people or do business with them. So this principle works. Particularly works when you need to establish relations in the team. You work with people who trying to find what you have in common with them. But this interest needs to be significant. You cannot say that we have dark eyes and we're a team now, we're going to do it. You need something more. At one of my presentations, I used a picture from Heroes of Might and Magic. And before the presentation, people came up to me and said, "We know this game, it's so cool, still playing it." Eventually, there was a team of guys who couldn't stop talking, and we simply couldn't start a presentation because we had so many things to talk about. So this principle works. This is how we become friends. Moreover, if your style, for example, the way you write reports or bug reports is similar to someone else's, there's a big chance that you will work much easier with this person. Where else does this principle work? Not only towards people, but also towards interfaces, towards code writing style, report writing style. Imagine you are promoting a new solution to your client, and you linking it to what the client already knows very well. If you offer in something new, the client will not agree because they don't know anything about it. If you clarify the context and show that if he had similar thing failing him at some point in the past, it will not work. So this is a working principle with some nuances. What is important here is principle of sympathy and similarity. It looks very much like an authority principle, but it is not so easy. If you have something in common with your new friend's ex, looking like them, but that ex failed that person at some person in the past, it will not gonna work. Here you shouldn't expect for profit because you somebody's childhood friend. Where this border fails, you stop being a professional if your private and professional life merges. Another important nuance of using this principle of similarity, a person can be pretty to a certain extent when your interlocutor has a dissociation about how you look and what you do and how you do it. They will no longer be working with you. For example, I distributed photographs in the group, and one of the clients did not did not want to hire a nice-looking girl, and they told me, why would you add the models, pictures of models, to the stack? And that was a professional. That's true with the guys. The next principle is the mutual exchange. It means that if you do a service to a person, your brain wants to. Their brain would like to pay you back. They don't want to be in debt. It looks simple on the surface, but there are nuances. This exchange of services needs to be equal. Ideally, you do what you can, what is easy for you to do, what you know very well, and what does not bring you trouble. And the person you're doing this service for, they need to get it at that point of time. Otherwise, it looks like a manipulation. Or you're trying to do good. Nobody wants you to do this good at this time, but you're trying to do this. You're wasting your time and somebody else's time. And you come back to this person. Okay, I gave you a pen. Why don't you write my report? So you need to consider this nuance. Why I recommend to use this method? It's a very good weapon, a tool in order to build a relationship, a trusted relationship in a team, especially if you work a long time on the project, because this exchange of help, of assistance, becomes a foundation of successful team. How I do it? I'm listening to people's problems. People sometimes say it out loud. They have invalid data, or something's not loading. If I know how to fix it, I help these people. And when I need help, people do the same with me. So this assistance or help balance is adjusted, and it's actually something goes wrong here if somebody is only asking people to do something and not helping back. It's self-regulating. This method can be used for mutual exchange of services. When people do you good, and it's much easier for you to do good for them. Or particularly if you're making concessions. This principle can be called has an effect of a postponed miracle. If somebody is doing you good all of a sudden, it means that you did something well in the past. So we confirm this principle. I recommend using it. By the way, you can use this principle in order to balance your relations of a pair of a developer and tester. We made a box where we dropped the reports of each other's work. At the end of the month, we read it out. First, it was difficult. People were afraid of falling out of a relationship, but it worked very well. People started thanking each other at a meeting. You can hear them saying, I had problems and Arthur helped me with this. I would like to thank him. This is a balancing act again of exchanging services. But there are also some nuances here. This principle was a huge disappointment for me, particularly these following two methods. First, if you break this exchange balance, if you're asking for too much, it's not going to work. What other methods disappointed me? The Franklin effect, which says that a person would rather help you again if they have already helped you than if you would help him. According to a legend, Franklin used it in the following way. He went to a politician who hated him and asked him for a book, and then they became friends. Guys, never make this mistake. Thanks, Franklin, because I never support relationship in a sillier way than this. And I was supposed to have good relations with these people, because in our sphere, time is such an important resource. So if a person is trying to get into a space with some unimportant issues, they really waste your time. And the people who trying to asking you for something big, it actually looks like they're trying to have you do the job. And the second disappointment is that asking for first for a little bit and then ask for more. I tested it when I asked people to fix minor bugs. It looks like this. Hey, can you remove this symbol here because you work in this model? And then it boils down to, can you rewrite this model for me? It looks like a manipulation. It doesn't work, although it should work. Should have helped me establish good relationship with my colleagues. Please don't use it. Next principle is the principle of continuity. It means that we want to be sustainability principle, and people who don't do this, they're perceived by us, by people who are not being sustainable in their approaches. People, particularly those who have the authority, like group leads and PMs, use it. What do you do in this case? You offer compromise. Maybe it will help person to exit the situation, keep their face. You're saying that it's a good solution, but maybe you should do it this way. It's easier to get out of this dead end. So this principle is confirmed.
And the next one is the principle of social evidence. It means that we're all in a group and we repeat things that other people do, or we don't repeat it, or don't do anything, if there is such an example for us. So we have to remember this principle, especially when we are in a group. So, for example, we are entering a room and you need some help from some of those people. So you basically don't say, hey guys. So you say, hey guys, who can help me with this? If in the first 5 seconds nobody responded, that means that they won't help you. If you know who the team lead is in this group, you basically ask this person. If you don't know it, then ask the first person you can say, hey guy, hey you, do you know where we can see this thing or find it? And Vanya, or this guy you ask, just starts answering your question, then all the others just come and help you. If you ask from everybody, then probably nobody will answer you. You have to solve your problem yourself. What is more important to know about this principle is that if when you're entering a group and feel that this group is rather negative towards you, then most probably team lead of this group has some negative attitude to you. And if you balance this, your relations with this person, you'll probably balance the relationship with all the group. When you make some decisions at agile sessions, for example, on retrospectives, the decision made, it is easy to make a decision. So check yourself, follow your decisions, and try to see if you would make this decision if you hadn't been in a group, if you were by yourself. So remember, if you're in a group, you do as the group does. And some other principles, those are kind of templates, and they help us to speak out our positions, to say it out more productively, especially when we need to solve some situations. So let's start with the principle of 3. So what is this method about? For example, you're asked to test a release in 2 hours. First of all, the first option you don't want to do that. The second option you do it, but you know that you will not succeed in it because it's impossible to do it in 2 hours. So you can try to do this ask and to see how much you can actually do in 2 hours, then to see the optimum value. The second option is, and the third one is an ideal option. When you ask the maximum time to conclude this task, you come back and say that I can do these things during this 2 hours. If you give me 4 more hours, I can test all those 4 additional features, and things that you want me to do in general, I need, for example, 8 hours for that. So basically, you need to be reasonable about what you do and what you want to do and what you can do. And if the person who set the task for you, decides to go with the first one when he doesn't want to give you additional tasks or additional time, then in this case you just have to tell him straight away that you will not be able to do it completely. You'll have only several features tested. So basically, I usually when I work, I give my options to these guys and ask them if they can implement it according to the specific features of architecture. And then when I understand what we can do and what we can't do, I provide this information to our client, and the client chooses one of those 2 options in most of the cases. And we don't have any problems with implementing this decision or this solution. And it is very important because you need to be, so to say, credible and reasonable. So this principle of 3 is very good for argumentation of your position. Don't forget about this principle. The next one is called scare somebody and give your own solution. So basically, it is needed to lighten up those problems that the others don't want to see. So how does it work? First of all, you come up to a person and say, okay, so we have such a problem. And in order to solve it, I think that we have to do this and this. So we have this bug, for example. It does not bother us now, but we're going to reprocess the module. So if we do this, for example, and we will touch upon this, then we'll have this terrible result. And in order to avoid it, I provide some of my own solutions in this case, or options. We need to be ready that about 40% of what you offer, you'll do yourself. And it's not only just to do it, but you also have to offer a solution that you will participate in it. It will be easier for you and for the others to see the problem and to solve it in a group. So it's a good one. And the next principle is the principle advantages and disadvantages. So this actually helped my friend, the blushing one, to go through a job interview and to find a job, and also to avoid some awkward situations. Also, it can help you when you need to provide the client with information about the quality of the product. So how does it work? So basically, you have to be honest. You speak about good advantages and disadvantages, but you have to start with disadvantages. For example, here you have small UI bugs, but here we have improved some new functionality and some older bugs, and the client has to decide based on this information, advantages and disadvantages, but honest ones. And besides, you have improved your image, and you also did not lie to the client, and the client, because if you lie, then you'll break your authority and your image and your reputation in front of your client. So it's a good one, you can recommend it. And speaking about helping some awkward people like my friend, when she went to her job interview and blushed, everybody gave her some water and they were anxious and so on, and she said, she said, okay, I'm doing it all the time. I'm like a tomato, and I wanted to show it to you. Everybody laughed at it, and she said that it was a really good solution to this negative part of the job interview, and it was even easier, and she actually got her position. So I recommend this principle, and my friend recommends it as well. And the next principle, the contrast principle, I headline it in red because it's a manipulation as it is. So how does it work? So it says that the difference between two events is seen by us by the consequence of this event. So for example, somebody comes up to us and says, okay, you have to complete this task in 4 days. You say, okay, you start doing it, and then another guy says, okay, and you have to also add a checklist. You said, okay, let's do it, and then the next day the boss comes and says, you also have to report on it and make a report. And he said, well, okay, I'll do a report as well. And you agree to it because basically the difference is not very big, so it is easy to make a checklist or a report, and it is not easy for us to adequately assess and evaluate how much time it will actually take and how it will damage or jeopardize our main task. So the risk here is to get a lot of additional smaller tasks that actually take a lot of time and that irritate you, and also prolong the time of your main task work. And basically you did not have it as a task, it was just like a offer, and you basically agreed to it, so it's not very good. And I did not try to use it in my practice. I just started to put checks on in my notebook. I just started to see how many times it was used on me, and when I saw that it was done quite a lot of times, I was very angry, and I just understood that I had my own task and I had to do it. So basically somebody asked me to fix the styles. I said, yeah, sure, we'll do that. And right now our testers are fixing the bugs. So basically it's important in this case not to use this principle without real necessity. So only if it is actually easy and quick to do it, well, you can do it. But if it is not, and if somebody asks you to do it, just say, stop, I have my own task, and I will come back to your additional tasks after I'm done with my main task. So basically you have to stop those attacks, so to say. You have to be reasonable about what you can do and what you cannot do, and what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And you still have time if you actually to think if you actually need this task. So please don't use this principle yourself, and don't let anybody else use it on you. And some other principles that can help you to boost your activity. First of all, context and emotions are very important. So we can actually read emotions from other people in the very first seconds of our communication. If somebody doesn't like us, we don't need to be trying to compliment this person and to make him like you. No, you should not do that, because our brains still understands that this person doesn't like it, and that's it. And you will not be able to change those emotions, those real emotions, the real attitude. It is difficult to do because people still feel your real emotions, and the bigger the distance is, the worse it is. Also, the context is very important. So what is happening? If you actually need to come up to this person to ask this person for something, or maybe there is some kind of additional principles working here. So we have to remember about the context, about the situation. The next one, it's very important to solve your issues when you are not tired and not irritated. Please take some rest, or just postpone the meeting. In 90% of the cases, if you're tired, you will not achieve your task, your goal, because your brain thinks about something else and it is not effective at all. And besides, you can get some additional stuff that you didn't want to even do at this meeting. So it is important to be fresh and to have some rest. Besides, you can use this principle of this special thing that you carry on yourself that just help you. It's like a lucky charm. So basically, you're sitting in the meeting, you hold your lucky charm, and you just keep on remembering what you actually need at this meeting, and don't take anything else apart from it. Also, we need to remember about non-verbal and verbal communication. Things that we say actually influence our understanding of what the others want from us. So if you want to defend yourself, for example, just say no. Because no basically crosses out everything else that goes after that. Have you tested this model? No, because. No, just don't say because. No, and that's it. Nobody wants to hear anything else from you. But you can say but. Have you tested the module? No, but I have already started. Have you tested it? No, but I have done this, and I can start testing this module. So basically this but neutralizes the no part. What else is effective? You can rephrase what you're saying. So for example, why the release did not go through. So basically you have to rephrase what you're saying. Say, why did we start testing a bit later on? And in this case, you are not taking the responsibility. You're sharing it with the other ones in the team. So basically it is a defense mechanism. So this rephrasing can make the context milder. It is something really good. And another thing important is that you have to protect your own borders and limits. So it is easier to influence you when the person is in your personal space. So basically you can take out some additional tasks and the person can defeat you if he is and her in your personal space. So don't let people in.
Also, if you fail, it's better to admit your mistakes and be ready to keep your face. Also, let other people keep their face if they admit their mistake. It's very important and contributes to your authority. And humor is a universal thing. It's a background to everything we have in our project. We use humor for everything in every situation. Not only softens some bad things, but it helps you form your team culture and binds you even more. You become you become one. For example, we have a guy at work whose name is Gena, and sometimes people call him Gendalf. He received a task which he did for several weeks. At another meeting he said, I'm working at this again. And some people say when he started doing this task he was a grey Gandalf, and now he's a white Gandalf. We had an inside joke. Now I'll demonstrate you eyebrows which look like a henna. Please guys raise your hands who hear very often people ask them why are you so sad. Maybe you also have eyebrows like mine. See, I put off my glasses. Without a symbol you could perceive me differently. I come closer so that it is easier for you to see me. Look at my face. I'm raising my hand now and you can see my emotions. I'm not trying to stabilize my emotion now. What are the emotions you saw? Okay, guys, speak up. You looked skeptical, they say. You looked displeased. What about now? Maybe it's a little tense, but I'm trying to show you something good. I'm in front of people that I don't know, so it's a bit confusing. Look at my face now. What is happening with it now? See? I'm sorry I cannot hear what they were saying in the audience. For those who are in the back, sit in the back, hope it works, yes. This is a face expression I had. What does it mean? If you have dark eyebrows and dark eyes, if you simply lower your head without changing emotions, you look ominous. Only doing this, it's important to understand. You need to remember about it. When you keep your head straight, you're perceived in one way. When you lower your chin, here you can see there's a triangle of anger, which looks look negative. When you go to your workplace and break the system, don't repeat that. Now, conclusions. We have examined the basic principles of influence and basic communication. This table is something I prepared for you to understand what works best when. Me and my friends from other teams and other companies, we tested it on ourselves. We can say for sure that these principles are effective. You can check what you're using now intuitively. You can see what you understand what you want to use. But don't use everything. Pick something concrete for each situation. There is also a risk scale. You can see how easily this principle is becomes a manipulation if abused. Try not to abuse them. Influence people, defend yourself, and don't put your chin down. Questions? Unfortunately, we don't have time for Q&A. You can always ask questions in the outside. Please do that if you would. Also like to remind you that you can score the presenter.